Good afternoon. Lord help me make this video not suck because I only have like a bare outline of what I want to say, but it is just kind of in my guts. But I think I talked about it a little bit in the previous video about just this idea that I keep seeing in media, and I saw it again, and I'm just like, oh, where are we going with this? What are we doing? But it's this idea of sacrificing one to save the many, or sacrificing many to save the untold countless amounts. And, the more I hear it, the more it's worrying me that they have some type of plan, that they want to convince us is a good plan. I don't know, sort of hinting that, getting the hint that it may involve a certain religious group that needs to be sacrificed for the many. And, I just want to reiterate, because just in the last couple of months since I've heard this idea, it started really striking my ear as strange, as that's not quite right. And sometimes I'll hear things, and something about it, my brain is sort of trying to process it, and it doesn't really I just kind of go, it just doesn't, I can't swallow it, but it doesn't raise red flags either. And this is one of those ideas of sacrificing one to save the many. And I think just reading some Bible and focusing on the way that God does things, and realizing that this is it's a wrong idea, but more importantly, it's a counterfeit right idea. So the idea, it's got things about sacrifice, it's got things like caring about humanity, and it's got, deep feelings of devotion to the group, and all of these other things that we might consider sacrificial, things that we would maybe, if somebody else did it, we would give them sainthood in their death. But that's the thing, though. You give people sainthood in their death for sacrificing their life. Do you know what I mean? When you decide that you're going to sacrifice other people's lives in order to save other people's lives, people act like that is, especially when you're watching a TV show and you got, characters that you want to see live till the next season or whatever, and you sort of just accept that as part of the plot, as part of something that would drive the characters to do what they do. But when you think about it, and it's really important, and this is something I've always done, and I don't know how many other people are doing this, but it's really important to realize what people do in TV land, and what people have characters do. Yes, there is a certain aspect that has to be realistic, or it will take you out of the movie or the TV show or whatever. But they can get away with doing a lot of things, especially if it's some scenario that you've never imagined or you could never be in, or some dilemma, some moral dilemma that you could never imagine yourself being in. And they make these decisions. And I don't know, I think it's really a common habit for Christians, probably, while you're watching your TV, to go yeah, nope, that's not right. Nope, the Bible says not to do that. That doesn't help it. Nope, that's not going to cover it and make it better. So, you're constantly seeing the contrast between what the world is showing you and what God says is correct. And if you're paying attention, you should constantly be working this muscle, because everything they show you is pretty much a hot mess, morally. But they can sneak a few things by you just because you'd have to be in the situation to know that that doesn't matter or that doesn't count or that isn't right. Just like sacrificing, you're not sacrificing your own life, so it's not even difficult. And when we see what God does, the way that God does things, yes, he does sacrifice and he tells others to make sacrifices themselves. But even God, who has every right to just kind of do whatever he wants with his creation, still chose to sacrifice himself. Uh, and he sacrificed himself to save everybody, and then uh, gained the right to pick his life back up again, and really just lost nothing. He didn't lose anything. The only thing he could count as loss is the people who say no to the offer. But that's the way that God does it. He doesn't lose anything. Even when it looks like a loss, it's not really a loss. Even the losses that he's telling us to take for the time being, anybody that's Christian thinks that Christian sacrifice, all the things that you sacrifice, all of that is ridiculous, and that you only get one life and you should live your best life, blah blah blah. Even all that, he restores, gets you get it back, like tenfold. Like people you lose, I mean, people who die, I mean, nothing is gone. Nothing is gone. I was thinking about this. I was like, the people, when you watch a TV show and the characters on the TV, on your TV show die, those people are more gone than your loved ones are gone. Like your loved ones are just, you're going to see them again. Like, so nothing is gone. No, nothing is lost. But the way that the devil wants you to actually lose things, he wants you to actually, your things to actually get destroyed and killed and stolen. So, yeah, I kept seeing that idea, and I've been thinking a lot about like just religions in general and how Christianity, being a not religion, but has somehow become the mascot of all religions. And I think part of the reason that is because it is the truth. And everything in this world is centered around you not accepting the truth. Um, Most of the religions are some sort of knockoff of of the gospel, because the devil knows that if he can just take out the singular thing that appeals to you about the gospel, or that appeals to you about the truth, and then take that and then put some fake stuff around it, then he can get you to waste your time doing something else. Because God knows, and the people of God who have the Spirit knows what the main things you need to have, which is accepting Christ, that he died on the cross for your sin and he was resurrected. And even some Christians, most Christians, I would say, don't understand why these tenets matter beyond it being told that they matter over and over again. Um, I mean, it gets reinforced. It gets reinforced a lot when you watch, you're watching your horror movie and there's no whatever the other symbolism in the other movies is, uh, or whatever other symbolism exists in other religions. It's not about, they're not hanging upside down, yin yang, or whatever, what I'm saying? They're not, he's not eating a Quran or whatever, or taking a dump in a Quran in these horror movies. It's all Christian symbolism. Now, why are all evil, terrible, horrible presences across the world desecrating Christian symbology and only Christian symbology. I mean, these are just things lying around that no one is even really looking at. And I forgot why I was saying that, but um, I think about like Islam and how Islam is got some things about it that are it's got some very Judaism type things about it, and it's got some Christian type things about it. Really, the only Christian type thing about it is its evangelical nature, but even that is like not like in the sense of like God said told the Christians go out into all the world, preach the gospel, and make disciples. You know, it's designed to spread across the world, and I think Islam is the only other religion that has that type of mission to spread across the world. Now, it does it using conquest and all of these other fun things that Christianity doesn't have, but there's if conquest appeals to you and you want to do it by um, enslaving other people or making them pay a tax to you or uh, fighting holy war, um, and do that all in the name of God telling you to do it, then Islam is your thing to do. Then, but it also has like these sort of Abrahamic roots, you know, the Ishmael uh, line of Abraham and all that stuff. And so it's got like this Judaism aspect to it too. And I think it's something like Mormonism that also has the evangelical type thing to it, but it's different. It's like for people who want to just be, you know, happy, normal people, I guess, but they want to have this revelation. I mean, I don't even know, like, if it's like, because the thing is, just like Mormonism and Islam, like these religions are don't get numbers by converting people; they get numbers by people being born into it. So it's sort of insulated among the people that are born into it and brought up to believe it. So, and in fact, a lot of religions, like uh, I think Buddhism is another big one. You know, some of the main ones that come through a culture, and you grow up in a family that practices a religion, and so I think just listening to a variety of different testimonies, like in the last couple of weeks, I'm noticing like uh, how they talk about how they're confused when they come to America or they're talking to other Christians about Jesus. And it's so funny because we don't realize like it's like the devil plays on our ignorance about each other because like they like people in like Islam say, well, this is a Christian country. And why do they say that? They say that because not so much like we used to think that they say that because of them observing us, but it's really because where they come from, the religion that you're born into is what it is, and you cannot get out of it. Like, you know, Buddhism is very similar. I think I don't know if Hinduism is the same too. Probably. Um, you know, if you become Christian in those families, you're going to get jumped by your family because it is a cultural thing. Now, people might want to say that it's the same with Christians, where if you grow up in a Christian family and you deviate, you know, you get some heat or you might get disowned or whatever. But that's more because we believe that if you reject Christ, you'll die forever. So there's an incentive outside of just control for Christians to want their family members to also meet, you know, their children to also become Christian. It's obviously a very close relationship, and so you don't want to see that thing severed. And yeah, not every Christian family is going to handle that dilemma very well. Some of them handle it very well, and their kids go off and decide to do this or that. And some of them are like, no, you are not, you are not going to, you're going to accept this, not even or else. They just, a lot of families flip out because it's really scary and it doesn't have any, it's like, it's kind of this weird thing where like they blame, they'll I just see the way that Christians get abused on all sides, and that's just to be expected. People are just trying to make sense of the whole thing, and I get it. But it's obnoxious because the other faiths where the people just grow up in those religions, and it's cultural, and that is how I think I've heard about Islam being the fastest growing religion right now. That's because Muslims are having babies. That's the only reason. It's not because people are converting. It's not what we know in this country about religions growing, about adding to their numbers. It's because people are becoming that. No, they're just being born into that. That's what that means. Like, that's not a joke or anything. Like, that's not dismissive. That's really what it is. And so that is how Islam gets their numbers, is through their culture. And so when they come here and they see that we're Christian, or they go, "Oh, this is a Christian country because," and they go, y'all Christians, y'all are just crazy and permissive, and you do so much stuff." And we, for a long time, we felt like, kind of as Christians, we felt we got kind of like shamed about that, about they would call out our Christian culture. But what they're saying is, like, because they think that our that our that's how we maintain our Christianity, is through culture, like they do. So they go, man, they're looking around, they're just like in Times Square, like, man, these Christians are not very Christian. It's like, yeah, no, that's because it's not the same thing. It's an individual decision. And they literally don't know that, because how would they know that? Where would they get that information? Everybody's so everybody's trying to educate us on other people. Who's trying to educate them on us? Like, nobody. So they're just assuming that everything is, they got to learn differently, like just by living, because no one's giving them a briefing on other cultures. You know what I'm saying? We're the only ones that need to be educated, right? So I don't know. I'm just seeing a lot of different things, and it's just making me more confident in how I talk about my faith versus other people's faith. And another thing that I heard, not picking on Islam particularly, um, but I heard another interesting thing that really, like, got my wheels turning about um, this guy. I forget his name. It's like something Ryan. He has a podcast, and he talks to a lot of like military people, service people. I heard a really scary one he did one time about somebody who worked at the CIA, and it was just scary because it was just like, yeah, who is running this thing? Like, hello. But anyway, like, I just saw a little clip of him talking to someone who was talking about being in Iraq. I'm assuming, I don't know, I don't think it was like right after 9/11. It wasn't really, I don't think the context was there, but he was just talking about how, I'm assuming it was like close to 9/11, because he was just talking about really being amped up and ready to go fight some jihadis or whatever. And, the thing that you hear on our end is always like, oh, we went and, we killed innocent people who were just trying to live their life. And the sweet little, it's just like, I, I say it like that because it's like I can hear and see the devil in it, the way that he's trying to paint these pictures for people. But so they go over there, and they're getting their targets, and he was just explaining how they were always like shaking in their boots when they got caught, or they were literally like peeing themselves and crapping their pants when they came across any American forces. And he wasn't saying it like, yeah, we made them crap their pants, haha. He himself was just like surprised, like these are the big bad jihadi. So like I don't does anybody remember? I mean, it's been like 20 years now, but it was like all of these videos of the machetes and chopping people's heads off. And um, I think it hit home for me particularly because I can get very like fooled by other people's bravado and just how they pretend to have all of this conviction behind who they are, and so that inspires me to like make sure that I know what I'm talking about and make sure that I have conviction about what I'm talking about. And I mean, by and large, most Christians, I don't know, Christians in general, like we think a lot about if we have to uh, give up our lives because it's a big hallmark of Christianity, and martyrdom is like a thing, and there was a lot at the beginning, and there's going to be a lot more at the end. So it's something that we think about and we consider, and I imagine by and large we feel like if that's something that we had to do in the moment, that we should and probably could do it. And it's just really surprising to me that it seems as though the way that this guy was talking about these Muslims, that they uh, did not have it in the moment. And it seemed like they didn't even really plan to have it in the moment. And like he was talking about, like, they would run, they would just like spray like gunfire in a crowd and then just run in the opposite direction. Just shook. And if you start a fight, and you could even, and he was saying like these weren't like these low level guys that just, these were like the high target, these high profile target people that were like wreaking all of this havoc. And it just dawned on me like, yeah, you can be bad when you got the gun, when you have the machete or whatever. It's like, okay, so you can deal with not everybody can deal with the head being cut off, but I think a lot of us were fooled by that. It was like, dude, these dudes are cutting people's heads off. Like, this is no joke out here. It's like, okay, so yeah, maybe Americans aren't we're a little squeamish around a machete, but I think maybe that's because we all have had guns for hundreds of years. It's like, bro, just get a gun. But it's like, yeah, we can do all of that. And the way that our country was forged in we also as a country have like a really rich tradition of like fighting to the death. And so I think we see a lot of other people, and we expect, when we send our troops over there, who are obviously, they know when they sign up what it means, and they have considered fighting to the death, and they come they come across anybody, and they're coming across Muslims, and they're literally running like Bugs Bunny cartoons. It's just like, really? Like, it really struck me. I was like, what? And then I was just like, yeah, because why would they? Like, where do you, like, if any Christian is doing that, by the way, if any Christian is giving their lives for this testimony of Jesus, they're not doing that in their own strength. Like, and again, this is another thing that's just sitting there, but it's also like, this is how God works. Like, he's not going to make himself known, but there's a lot of things that Christians are doing, and there's a lot of things that the people of God do in the earth that everyone else takes for granted and thinks that you can just do because you believe in something. So there's a lot of confusion, not confusion, but it's like a magic trick, or it's like Sixth Sense or something. Like, who's dead and who's alive? Like, people think that Christianity is just another religion, and like we all believe in something. And so, yeah, you can't tear down this group of people who also believe in something. What makes your belief in something better than their belief in something? And I guarantee you, every single time, because it's not fueled by God. It's not fueled by God because it's not the truth. And so when you just tap on it a little bit, it crumbles to dust. And it's hard to explain, but just know that like the devil, not only does the devil give you this like buffet of choices as far as religions of which one to choose, and this one's a little bit more like it's more orthodox and big fancy church, and you got to sit up and sit down, and a lot of rules, and that makes you feel like you're doing something. And then you've got this that is outreach, and that makes you feel like you're doing something. And then this one is a little more monastic, and that makes you feel like you're doing something. And you got this one that's like uh you just you worship the nature and the creation and the universe, and that makes you feel like you're doing something. And all of these different things that make you feel like you're doing something because God put it in us to do a certain series of some things, and they sort of feel like that, but they don't give you the ick like Christianity does, because Christianity is the only one calling you out your name and saying like, listen, you're actually terrible. Not terrible, but like you're a malfunctioning toy. And until we reconcile that with reality, like we can't get any further. So it requires you to say, okay, first we got to deal with the fact that nothing here is perfect, because God in heaven is perfect. He is the truth. He made you, and he is perfect. Why aren't you? That has to be reconciled right now. Why can't you hear him? Why can't you see him? And so we see these other faiths that are just already like from the jump, like never going to get you anywhere because they don't address the primary things. And it's so self-focused and so focused on this world. And even just all of them working together and everyone respecting each other's faiths is so of this current life. It reeks. It's like, I'm not going to like sit in silence for 80 years and not tell you about. And it's all a big plan of Satan to keep people from God and to have people perish with him. And so he'll do these things, which I don't know, I guess he's just learned over time. So he'll do these things that can mimic things about Christianity, things about the commitment that we have to the testimony of Jesus, to the point where, we'll go to our death to proclaim this situation. And, you know, whatever. It's hard to really mimic like certain things like the worship. There's really not a lot of other faiths that have this kind of worship component where you worship Jesus like always. Like there's Christian artists. I don't know if there's Muslim artists that are singing like Muhammad songs. Do you know what I mean? Like, um, so he'll do these things and he'll sort of mimic the light, mimic things that light does. Like, I don't know, I said this a couple of times, not a lot, but it was a really major revelation that I had when I realized that the truth, the nature of truth and the nature of light are like the same, and the nature of lies and the nature of darkness are the same. So if you're lighting a match in darkness, the way that light behaves in the company of darkness is the way that truth behaves in the company of light. But a lot of times the devil tries to mimic light and mimic, because basically light goes around unbothered. It is not, light is superior to darkness. It doesn't worry about darkness. And so so he has to sort of pretend to be light sometimes, because otherwise he'll make it very obvious that he is not light, and he is complete total darkness. And that is, the jig is up at that point. That's one thing that all of humanity can agree on. We will. God has sort of hidden himself for the sake of making helping us to have free will and not make a decision just based on him existing, because it just kind of, I don't know, it's a time waster. It's like uh, he can't get a real reaction if you know that he exists. And you're here to choose, so he's gonna ruin the choice if he shows up in all his splendor. This stuff, you yourself is plenty of splendor. This world is plenty of splendor. And the conscience that he gave you and all this stuff, that's plenty of giveaway stuff. So there's a lot of givens um, in the puzzle or whatever. Like, I'm trying to think of what's that puzzle? Was it anagram? I don't know. Where they like give you letters and then you have to figure out the rest. So he's given us some stuff, and that's plenty. People think it's not plenty, but it is. That's when people don't want to know. That's when people don't want to know that it's not enough. Then they need all the letters, and then it like spells it out. Jesus is the Christ, and you're like, I don't. What does this mean? So that's plenty of stuff. But one thing that will get everybody on the same page is the devil, and the devil also has a vested interest in not showing himself either. But a lot of times he can't help it, because being light is not his thing. The main thing that he can get out of that is just being a liar. So that's the only thing that like helps him maintain light, is to be able to just be a liar. But if he ever had to show a sincere feeling of care for somebody, like, he wouldn't be able to pull it off, and then the whole jig would be up. It's just like having a psychopath as a boyfriend or whatever. Eventually, you catch wind. So, um, yeah, there's a lot of I think of Mormonism in particular as something that sort of is masquerading as light and giving off a lot of similar vibes. And then you just kind of look at them and go, well, you just want to leave them alone because they're not harming anybody. And, but, and when you try to talk to them, there's really nothing you could say, because they've got the same sort of talking bullet points. They've got a way to defend their faith, just like you have a way to defend yours. But they've been given certain things to like care about that I don't even think that they know that the point of that is so that they can mimic light to other people. It's like putting a suicide bomb jacket on children. It's like that's what the devil does. Or he gets you to tell. He gives you a thing of talking points. You're a child, and you're actually being kidnapped by him. You don't know that, because that's all you've ever seen is him. And he gives you a set of talking points, and you think it has something to do with like y'all's relationship, and all it's really doing is just things to tell. Like, when the police come, it's all the things that you need to tell the police, so that they don't so that when they answer the door, they don't come and bust the door down. And you think it's like something about, it's like, no, that's just to fool the outside world. Like, that's not even, has nothing to do with your religion, because your religion is nothing, but you don't know that. So I think, and people could say, well, how do you know that Christianity's not doing that? It's like, do you notice how that ours is the only one that you have this level of scrutiny for? And you could say, well, yeah, because yours is the only one that's trying to like bully the other ones. It's like, yeah, we are. Yeah, we are, because ours says that this is the truth and it's open to everybody. And God said, go out. It's like everything that we do is baked into our religion, just like the stuff that y'all do is baked into y'all's, but you don't realize that it's baked in. It's not baked in for you. It's baked in for you to stay here and do nonsense for the devil. Like, new age, all of it, I keep saying like it's unbelievable, but it really shouldn't be at this point. And then you got the people who just don't believe in anything, and this, they have the most pride that, thank God I haven't been brainwashed by any of these religions. And it's kind of, it can really get overwhelming if you sit and think about it, like me. But it's like the way that God has the whole thing in control is really profound and amazing. Because it's also in a strange way everyone is right where they need to be. Like, yeah. So that doesn't mean like we have to stop doing what we're doing. No, everyone has to keep doing what they're doing, whatever it is in their capacity. So that means Christians too. So um, yeah, the people that want the Christians to stop so that they can have peace in their world, is the exact thing that we are trying to disrupt. So, I mean, it's in our theology. We're not being obnoxious. It's not like we don't know that you don't want to hear about what we're talking about. Like, we know when we are in the middle of the street preaching to you that you don't want to hear that. Like, and then the way that people sort of delude themselves in this thinking that they have to be respectful of our religion. Like, we know that you can't. We're waiting for you to get to that. I mean, there's some Christians that actually no. There's a lot of Christians that get surprised when they get pushed back, and I don't know that people seem to be receptive to that. I can't go around pretending like I don't know that y'all aren't receptive, and that I don't know that, and that I don't. It's not that I don't care. It's just like the care is down here, but what God told me to do is up here. And I think that's true for any Christians that are sort of giving you, telling you those uncomfortable things and having those uncomfortable conversations. I mean, the blood will be on our hands. That's the type of gospel that we're preaching. So, at least if you're not going to be receptive to it, just act like you understand what our stakes are. You understand that we believe that this is the truth and the only truth, and that the blood will be on our hands if we don't tell somebody. So, at the most reasonable position to me, it seems like you should just sit and just let us finish. And if it's like in no way real whatsoever, then it shouldn't bother you at all. Why does someone talking to you about sin bother you if it's not real? Like, and I really need you to go through all the other nonsense concepts in the world that aren't real and are diluted, and see if they have any effect on you, because that is the default thing. Like, most things that are delusional nonsense have no effect on you. Like, that's kind of their hallmark. So if the concept of sin is getting you in a deep place, and you're rationalizing that by saying, oh, this is my upbringing and this is what I came from and blah, blah, blah. Um, what do you have to give yourself a lobotomy to get over it? Because it just seemed like every time anyone brings it up, it just instantly goes right through you. Okay. The other thing is, like, stop interpreting that as a bad thing. That's a great thing. That means your conscience is functioning, that God gave you, and that you are you're in contact with something that's making you feel like, why would you ignore that? Because it makes you feel bad. It's temporary. I wish that we were better at, expressing, telling people what the main ideas are. Um, but a lot of people aren't good at, we're doing our best. We don't even, a lot of us know that we have to go out and spread the gospel, and we don't know what to say, and we just got to give us the words to say. But a lot of times we have something prepared that someone else wrote, and it's not the best for answering questions, and so you end up kind of looking dumb sometimes. But then we also know that it's God that gives the increase, it's not us. So it's just interesting. It's a fine line. Yeah, part of me wishes we were better at explaining it and being able to sort of articulate it. But I think that's, part of that is ego, but I do think it would help sometimes, but I think by and large, it's all the work of God. Like somebody's articulate words about it um, is not what does the job. It's God that does the job. So anyway, I don't know. I was just rambling, but I really was thinking about just the mirror reflection of just like Christianity and then all of these other religions sort of either mimicking it in some way or mimicking the things that we want, the things that God has wired us to want. And yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. But anyway, I guess I'm done running for the day. And yeah, y'all be blessed.